Are you willing and obedient? Join me at the table as we really find out if you're willing and obedient. Isaiah 1:19 tells us, if we are willing and obedient, we shall eat the good of the land. The New Living Translation says, if you obey me, you will have plenty to eat. Some other scriptures say you will have the best of the land, the best crops, if you're willing and obedient. So before we can determine if we're willing and obedient, we've got to know what is willing and what is obedient, right? Willing means to be ready, prompt to act or respond without reluctance, glad, prepared, excited. Obedient means to be submissive to the command of authority, willing to obey. So here it says, if we're willing and obedient, we'll eat the good of the land. We'll have the best of the land. We'll have the best of God's provision. Obedient for us is probably the easier of the two. Why? Because as we grew up, we knew you have to obey your mom and dad, right? Then you got to school, you have to obey, you have to listen to the teachers. Then as you even got older, you have to obey the authorities as you're driving. Then you get a job, you have to obey your job. That's easy, right? Obey. You just listen and be submissive, even if you don't agree with it. How many times does us as adults can say, ain't that the truth? We work at places where we might not agree with all their standards or their ways of doing things, but we work there and we submit to them. That's being obedient to them. But where we really got to check ourselves is, are we willing? Even when we looked at the term in the word obedient, it said willing to obey. There's a difference in between willing and obedient. How do I know that? Well, if it was the same thing, God wouldn't have put it that way. He wouldn't have said willing and obedient. He could have said, if you're willing. And many people say, I am willing, I am willing, I'm willing. And sometimes they say, well, I can't be obedient to that. I think we kind of look at it differently. It's easier for us to obey because we've been taught from such a young age. But the willingness is the attitude of it. I can speak to that with our son. He is obedient when we ask him to do things, but his attitude, his willingness to do it, that's where we're working on. And again, willing means ready, prompt to act or respond without reluctance, glad, prepared, and excited. So are you willing? And if you say, ooh, you're kind of stepping on my toes, that's okay. I'm stepping on my own toes too, but we're going to learn through this together. That's why we have this. This is part of our going deeper with God. Like I said at the beginning of December, we're going to go deeper with God before the year 2024. We're going to start off our year developing, getting ready to go deeper with God so we can look and say, I know how now to go deeper with God. We've been talking about different things and going deeper with God. We've talked about, is there more? And we've answered, yes, there is more to God. We've talked about, how bad do you want it? You have to really want it. And then if you really want it, well, what does that mean? What is it? What's in it for me? I really want it, but I really want to know what is all in it for me. And now we're answering the question, am I willing and obedient? Am I willing and obedient to do what God tells me to do to go deeper with him? Yeah, I can say, okay, God's word says to study his word. Well, I can obey that. I go to church. I read scriptures. We can do that. But the willing part is, am I willing to read the word when it's hard? When I'm going through something? Am I glad and excited to be reading the word? Do I make time for the word? That's willing. It makes me think of the story where a king or a person was having a party and he wanted to invite all these people. And the first person was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I got to go do this. The other one was like, yeah, I just bought some cows. I got to go do this. And the other one was like, I just got married, dude. Like, I gotta split. All making excuses. They weren't willing to go to that. So what is it in your life that holds you back? Maybe you make excuses with or for that doesn't help you become willing and obedient. I want to go to church, or I'm going to church, but are you glad you're going to church? Are you excited when you go to church? Are you expecting something? When God tells you to do something, are you doing it prepared and willing to do it? Are you going to respond to it without reluctance, without questioning it? When we understand what it means to be willing and obedient, we will go deeper with God.